Here's a truth about Shadow and Bone that is never really explored in the text. Alina and Mal each suffered an unimaginable trauma as children, and their friendship was a means of surviving it. Regardless of how it happened, be it in the border wars or, somehow, in the fold, both lost their families violently, and were then raised on an estate that hardly knew them from the next charity case. In the books, it's the subtext of much of Alina's loneliness, and it's why Mal needs so badly to be loved by everyone around him, but where their relationship is concerned, the psychological fallout is more or less simplified into the classic childhood best friends eventually grow into something more YA trope. Mal, in particular, suffocates his trauma, pretending it doesn't exist and taking his insecurities out on Alina. But the trilogy doesn't properly frame this attitude as toxic, which is probably why so many Grishaverse fans hate Mal. I had been wondering where the friction between their TV counterparts might come from, now that both characters have been significantly upcycled. Now, I have my answer: they love each other deeply, but they're codependent, and it is tearing their lives apart. Because it's more than just love that has driven them to do foolish things, as Mikhael put it. We see young Alina destroy her palm, the blood gushing out of her fist, in order to stay behind with Mal when the testers come to the orphanage. You protected yourself by denying yourself, Baghra observes. We see a freshly recruited Mal cut his own hand by smashing a pint glass over a racist officer's head, in defense of, and to be with, Alina, even if it's in the brig. Now, at the Little Palace, Alina is suffocating her own potential for greatness, in the hopes that Mal will show up and help her decide what to do. And Mal volunteers for a suicide mission to find Morozova's Stag, getting his two best friends killed by Fjerdans in the process, in the hopes that success will bring him back to Alina. Where in the books they're both trying to decide if they resent each other, with Alina, it's mostly beating herself up about what Mal thinks of her powers. Now it's deeper, and more heartbreaking. Neither seems to know who they are without the other, so they hurt themselves, and others, to avoid any growth that might change that relationship. They've now unwittingly written each other twin letters, neither to be delivered, outlining how the other is their true north. In reality, they're more like the sirens on those old maps, each luring the other's ship to rocks and ruin, whether they mean to or not. That's not romance. It's trauma. That said, Alina is learning to be her own person, albeit under extreme duress. Baghra wails on her physically, finally, a montage, and even doses her with psychedelics to get to the bottom of what's keeping her from tapping into her powers.